Hello, my Icebergs. This is part 2 of Rajiv sir's episode. If you haven't watched part 1, then you must because it will show you the magic of life. Rajiv Vaishnav sir is a co-founder and managing partner at Cornerstone Venture Partners. It's a venture capital fund for enterprise-sized businesses. He was heading ecosystem and partnership at Reliance Industries Gen Next Venture Fund and Geo Gen Next Innovation Hub. Earlier, he was the vice president at NASSCOM. He played a key role in establishing TIE in India and was the first director and co-founder of TIE Mumbai. In part 2, we talked about different aspects of startups. If you are an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, then you must watch to understand the required mindset and insights about the startup world. So, enjoy this episode and don't forget to note down your learnings. Let's grow together. Hello, my Icebergs. Welcome to the Iceberg Show with Saurabh Puranik. Here, we share character-enriching and entrepreneurial content by uncovering the minds of successful people. So, please make sure to subscribe us and share these videos with your friends and family and become a part of their growth story. I request you to note down the learnings of this video in your diary or in the comment box. So, let's grow together. Let's move on to the next section of this episode, that is you as an investor. So you talk about entrepreneurship and how a startup should create a great organization. But sir, I'm sure that you must have hear from various startup founder that we have $1 billion idea and that may be possible, but how to exactly identify our market size, because that could be the deciding factor for your startup idea, whether we should go for it or not. So how to identify that?
Very interesting question and very relevant also, because the first 2-3 slides where you talk about the market opportunity, right? Opportunity is very important when you are looking at the startup. So as an investor, when we look at the startup, what are the 4 things that we would want to look at, right? So one is the opportunity when we are talking about the market size and the competition and all those things. Then we look at the scalability as to what is the potential of your organization to scale your company, your startup, and things like that. Market is there. I mean, when you are looking at the globe, when your vision is global, which is so important. See, we have to build to cater to a global responsibility or global opportunity, right? And when you are doing that, the market opportunity is great. It's like this. There was a sage and his disciple. They were taking bath in the ocean. They were swimming in the ocean. And the disciple went to ask his guru. He says, Guruji, what is knowledge? So Guru says, this ocean is knowledge. Just think like that. This ocean is knowledge. The disciple said, yeah, but how much knowledgeable are you? He said, wow, this is a good question. He says, come on. So he pulled the disciple out and then he showed his body. He said, look. He said, what? He said, when we were in the ocean, we thought that the entire ocean belongs to us. But when we came out, only the droplets which are hanging on my body is with us. The ocean is still there.
Wow.
Opportunity is like that. The opportunity is there. What is your potential? How many droplets you are able to carry out of that opportunity is what, as an investor, we would want to see. So scalability part of it is very important. And of course, monetizability and exit opportunities, right? And not necessarily exit is like you build for sustenance, you build for exit. That's fine. But these are all important aspects. So when you are looking at the opportunity, I think your target should be, and this is a very interesting learning that I have got from IPS officers, from police officers, or even from government officers in general, right? People who really want to contribute to the country or to their jobs, what they say is, look, my tenure is 2 to 3 years in this present duty, right? Any senior officer, anybody would be occupying a position For 2 to 3 years after that, there will be a transfer, or transfer can become random. They don't know. But what I learned from them is that look for small successes, right? And when you look for small successes, and this is what great cricketers, I mean, when you look at, I think whether Sunil Gavaskar told us this or Bensarkar, I'm forgetting that. But, the questions when they ask, or maybe Sachin Tendulkar, that when you are planning to score, or when you think that you want to score a century, how would you do it? And they would say, look, I'll aim for playing 1 over first, then the second over, then the third over, and then I will build my score. So this building the score for global opportunity is very important. And if you do that, if you are sensible enough to do that, like for example, we are a B2B Cornerstone Venture Partners, right? We are a B2B enterprise SaaS funds. Now, our thesis is not a unicorn kind of a thesis. When people say, hey, I want to look for a unicorn, you can't look for a unicorn. You have to look for a startup who has a potential to become a unicorn. You can't look for a unicorn. And that is a misconception. But there are people who will say that, no, from my portfolio, if I have 1 or 2 unicorns, I'm happy. We are not like that. Because unicorn mindset, it's winners takes it all. What people see is the success. Today, when you see 4 unicorns in a week's time or this and that and all, and then a lot of excitement in the ecosystem, hey, we must do. But when you go deeper, you realize that against those successes, and successes are not bad at all, there are a huge number of failures which nobody talks about. So when you look at the global opportunities, you look at building to that opportunity. And if you can plan that, okay, my first target is 10 million revenue. Once I achieve that 10 million revenue, I'll review my strengths, I'll review the opportunity, I'll move into 50 million revenue or 100 million revenue and things like that. So there are glass ceilings that one has to pierce every time that you are on the journey towards excellence. And as I said, when you start, this is very important, that if you really want to create a kind of a hockey stick curve, my president, Mr. Som Mittal, said some very interesting thing. He said there are S curves which are coming in everyone's life, whether it is an organization or individual. It's a 5-year cycle or a 10-year cycle where you have an S curve that you start, you go low, and then you start scaling up, and then you get into a plateau. And that's the time when you have to reinvent. So an organization's journey or a startup journey is a journey where multiple reinventions, re-innovations, you keep re-innovating yourself at different levels of your journey, becomes very critical in order to reach a sizable milestone. So that's what I feel. That's where I think as a founder or as a founding team, one has to plan the journey accordingly.
But sir, you talk about S curve. So at different stages, what are the different stages of company, and what approach a founder should have at these levels?
Yeah, so one is a survival stage, right? Beginning, when you don't have enough money, you are putting in your money, you are putting in your time, your effort, you are leaving a job and dedicating yourself to an idea that you think is going to work, or a problem that you have identified. And I think that's a good starting point always, that you start with a problem rather than starting with an idea. So most of the founders who start with a problem have a greater probability of finding a great solution. In fact, you must listen to Mr. Mukesh Ambani's talk at NASSCOM platform. I think this was 2017. YouTube has that video. Very interesting. He talks about, he said he was, his professor, I think Professor Sharma, used to look at it this way, that the quality of problem that you identify will define the quality of solution that you can produce. So this is very important, that what quality of problem that you are identifying, and this is the early stage of startup, and then they call it death valley, right? Now that's the point where the startups normally get killed themselves, or due to circumstances, due to multiple constraints and all that. But then that's a survival stage, and that is where you have to be happy with smaller successes. Like you can get a team member, or you can get a small seed fund from your family or from your friends, or small successes, or your product development has reached the next stage of building the prototype, and as you are growing. And then there is a sustenance. Mythology teaches us a lot of things. So like how literature teaches us, and I love connecting these dots, right? So my definition of an entrepreneur, and I used to say this, Mr. Vilasrao Deshmukh was the chief minister in Maharashtra, and this was his first term. And Thai in Mumbai, we had this first ThaiCon. This was 30th October 2000. And I just, because being the director there on the stage, I was comparing it, and comparing was my passion, and because of comparing only I got into Thai. So I was comparing, and I said, the spirit of entrepreneurship is depicted in this couplet. फलक को जिद है जहां बिजली गिराने की. फलक यानी आसमान, स्काई. फलक को जिद है जहां बिजली गिराने की. हमें भी जिद है वहीं आशियां बनाने की. Where the sky has decided to strike, I have committed to build my castle there. Now that is an entrepreneur. Now there is another ghazal. जिनके होठों पे हंसी पांव में छाले होंगे, हाँ वही लोग तेरे ढूंढने वाले होंगे. Now you twist that and put हाँ वही लोग VC तेरे ढूंढने वाले होंगे, और हाँ वही लोग कस्टमर तेरे ढूंढने वाले होंगे. जिनके होठों पे हंसी. See, the definition of an entrepreneur is so beautifully depicted here. The person who is smiling on face, पांव में छाले होंगे. He has struggled a lot. He has moved around a lot. He has knocked multiple doors to get that first success. हाँ वही लोग तेरे ढूंढने वाले होंगे. So unless you have these basic traits and smile while you are bleeding, you have that passion, you have that commitment, you have that vision to make it global, to make it successful. So that is where the survival part would come. Once you clear that, in the mythology that I was talking about, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, Trimurti is the face of God, or unity, or whatever that we call about, right? The power. What is Brahma? The originator. What is Vishnu? The sustainer. And what is Shiva? The destroyer. And destroyer of what? Destroyer of cost of poor quality. Right? When you grow the organization, you look at the cost of poor quality. How can I minimize my wastage, my losses? How can I minimize the cost of acquiring customer and things like that? Or how can I kill my startup which is not working? So there was an Israeli entrepreneur who had come to address students at COEP, and she said beautifully, she said that, look, you must love your startup, but you must be willing to kill it. So that destroyer part also is very important as far as the founder or founding team is concerned. So that's where we are. I don't know. I mean, I may have changed tracks in my explanation, but that's where we are.
But sir, here I would sense that the product testing of will play the big role in that startup journey, and it's very easy for B2C product to test that phase, but it's difficult for B2B because of that. It's hard to access that network. Okay, so how to test that B2B segment of your product?
So I think what we believe at Cornerstone is that the best mentor is your customer, because, and that to paying customer. We tend to feel happy when we are giving a free POC, and we have experienced this n number of times, and particularly in B2B kind of startups. They will put the logos of the companies on their presentation that these are our customers, because when we go a little deeper into them, they say, no, we are doing a POC, but a free POC. Of course, then there is no customer. They are allowing you because of the corporate policy that we must interact with innovation ecosystem. We must encourage startups, and they are helping you to test, but unless they pay. So paying customer becomes the best mentor. And particularly in a B2B space, we would recommend, and in our due diligence, and this is something which is very important from a startup journey point of view, what we do and how we try and see, thanks to the association mindset that I carry for 20 years of my life. I work for not-for-profit organizations. What I believe and what we believe, Abhishek and I both together, when you look at the first version of our website, the first sentence that would come up was winning together. So are we winning together is very important. And therefore, what we do is that even if in startups where we don't invest, but we realize that the founder is great, the opportunity is amazing, the product is great, but it is not exactly falling into our enterprise SaaS theme, we go and recommend them to user organizations in our network. Because the value addition that a VC can bring on table is not financing. Financing is the least important thing that one can claim that he's contributing or they are contributing, right? It's basically the entire network of your experience, of your connects that you are bringing onto the table, and you are hastening the journey. You are that truck which is moving in front of a bicycle. You helping the startup in. So what we do is, as a user diligence, we go to a corporate and we tell them that, the startup is good. I think they should be able to fulfill a couple of your requirements. Why don't you try them? So there are many startups in whom we have not invested, but they still got back to us and said, thank you very much for connecting us with this customer. Now we are, we are serving them. So this is how you expand. This is how you kind of help the ecosystem. And wherever we are investing, definitely we will make sure that we go to a user and tell them that, look, use this product. And even if they say they are 60% ready, that's a good number. That's a good percentage to feel that, okay, at this stage of their life, their journey, they are 60% ready. We will help them to make it as close to 100. And that's a journey that they will have to take. So I think it's a amazing kind of a partnership that we get into, and that's the fun.
So that means be in network so that you can utilize that network and to test your product. So yeah. But sir, can you please tell us about more about funding and how the deal executes in reality? Because we heard a lot of news that this XYZ company has raised this much of funding. But sir, actually in reality, how the deal executes and what things we as a startup founder should keep in mind in terms of funding?
Yeah, no, I think it's a very complex situation. Complex not from any other point of view, but there are so many aspects which are on the surface and which are below the surface. So aspects on the surface is, when you are raising, it all depends upon what fund you are raising, right? You are a first time coming to an institutional funding, it's a different ball game altogether. See, angel funding is a different way of looking at a startup, right? Angels are passionate to contribute. Angels are personally involved into helping startups. They have their own aspirations and they believe in the startup. And there are multiple things that happens at angel level, but the compliance, the due diligence, and the levels of those are limited there. When it comes to an institutional investor, then there are legal compliances, there are financial compliances. So when you have legal compliances and financial compliances that are happening on one hand, and in our case, we have partners to do that. But what is happening internally then is there are multiple aspects that we look at, right? I mean, we look at product market fit and what is the opportunity, what's the competition and all that. In a B2B scenario where we are investing, we also look at founder market fit, that whether the founder comes from the domain and whether that is his passion. So thankfully, now we are getting some amazing founders who have a deep domain knowledge, at least 10, 15 years of domain experience, and then got into the entrepreneurial journey and things like that. So founder market fit. Then we do user diligence. Before that, we do commercial diligence, where we talk to their bankers, we talk to their employees, we talk to their customers, and we get a lot of feedback from there. User diligence helps us for assessing how a potential pipeline of customers are going to look at this startup, how much they will be willing to pay, what could be the pricing strategy, and multiple such things that we get into. And the most important thing that we do is a founder fund fit. This founder fund fit, according to me, is very, very critical. What happens is, when we have these initial conversations with a startup founder, we don't talk much, we listen. Because the person has come to get money. If today is Friday, and as an investor, I'll say today is a Saturday, he would say, yes, what you are saying may be right, today is Saturday. We don't want to listen to that. We want to listen to your story. Can you communicate that story and align me with your vision? And that's one very important thing for a startup founder. Is he a good storyteller? Is he able to communicate his vision, his grand vision? Because, sometimes the founder is so close to the startup, his own idea, that he can miss out a larger opportunity, multiple other opportunities. But if I start talking about those opportunities in the first meeting itself, that, hey, you can do this, you can do this, you should do this, you should do this, the guy will say, I want to first achieve this, and these guys are telling me that I can do all those. Yeah, okay, I say yes. And then once the money hits the bank, I say, I don't care. I mean, I will do what I want. And you will see many conflicts emerging out of this. That Jate the Japan, pahunch gaye Cheen, samajh gaya na. Now, it's to be avoided. And that is where we listen to the founding team for 1 or 2 meetings. Once internally we realize that, yes, what they say makes sense. And now we have reached that comfort where we can roll out. So there are 2 things that we believe is happening between, it's a very dynamic thing between a founding team and a investment team. There is a founder's vision and there is an investor's imagination. So when we talk of founder fund fit, we are trying to say that whether these 2 align or not. And once they align, then you have a great relationship, rapport building with the founders. And founders understand that this is the larger canvas that we are drawing, on which we are drawing, and this is the potential scope of what I could not see because I was too close to my idea. And now from outside in, I'm realizing this. So it's a combination of multiple things that when a founder is coming to a fund, and it will also depend on the fund, that how they are looking at the opportunity and what kind of, the most important thing in COVID times, as many of my colleagues, other funds also have talked about, is the clarity, transparency, and communication. The founder has to communicate to the investor whatever difficulty that they are in. They should not hide information. They must create everything. And I'm re-emphasizing, everything will depend on trust. The trust that you can generate in your investor. The trust that investor can generate in you. 2 kadam tum bhi chalo, 2 kadam hum bhi chale. And then you will be able to walk together to meet your destination or to reach your destination. So I think there are multiple things. As I was saying, there are some things on the surface, like all these commercial diligence and financial and legal and all. That's one part of the story. But beneath, there is a huge understanding that one has to build for a comfort that an investor would have it in the founding team, that yes, now this is the time. Because one thing has to be understood. As an investor, today we are investors, but it is not our money. We are responsible for our investors' money. And, Mukesh Bhai in that NASCOM interview has said that as a founder, as an entrepreneur, you must value your investors' money much more than your own money. That responsibility is so important, that this is not my money. This is the money of my investor. And I will be very, very careful in spending that and in utilizing that. Same thing happens with us. So we are in the same chain of responsibility where the entrepreneur is. We are one level before, that we are custodian of our LP money or the money of our investors. And therefore, every investment that we do has to come out of a proper due diligence and with a huge clarity. And I'm not saying that after doing all this, we will not fail. No, that will happen because there will be multiple factors to bring that unfortunate failure for a startup. But that is the risk, high reward is the venture game. And one has to be ready for that.
Actually, you have talked about so many things about funding, and you have shared so many insight about funding, and from an investor point of view, and as well as from as an entrepreneur point of view. So that's really great. But sir, my last question is that what impact do you want to leave on the society with the help of Corner Store Venture?
Wow. Amazing. I think, this question is really baffling because what impact? Yeah, I mean, the world, the universe is so large and we are a tiny peg in the whole thing. But yes, I think it is very important. It leads me to a story. Sorry, I'll add a little quick story. So there was a fire in the jungle, right? And every animal and the animal family were escaping from the jungle. While they were escaping, there was a sparrow who was flying to the river, taking water in the beak, flying back and spitting it on the fire, and would do it again and do it and will do it again. And there was a monkey who was looking at this, and he said, "Oh, stupid sparrow, what are you doing? Why are you taking all this trouble? This fire is huge, and with your spitting this small droplets of water is not going to help anything." And the sparrow responded, saying that this jungle is my home, and I know there is a fire, and I know that I'm inadequate to really create any impact to diffuse the fire. But I want to put in my 100% effort in order to make sure that I contribute in that diffusion. So that is my duty. I'm doing my duty. The impact may happen, may not happen. I don't care. Once the monkey listened to what Sparrow said, and the other animals who were listening to it, they all started coming together and they started helping the sparrow in bringing the water from the river to the fire. And slowly, the fire got diffused. So when you ask me this question, let me put it very humbly, that the effort, puri imandari se we want to do it in order to contribute a little bit to whatever could be the situation, to promote entrepreneurship, to promote good governance, to promote India brand globally, and say that, hey, there are these startups in India who are really making a difference, and whatever. I mean, I don't know. But yes, that whatever water that we can pick it up in our small beak. We are a $50 million fund. We will plan for a bigger funds in future. But all are ifs and buts and things like that, right? I mean, but then when you're asking me a question today, now I can only say that yes, we will pick up that droplets of water and throw it on wherever there is a need. And that is our contribution. That's it.
Thank you so much, sir. Actually, I can relate to those story because I'm also trying to promote entrepreneurship. So
exactly. So ask me that last question as to what do you like in that? I can.
Yes, sir. So I'm thankful for you to take part in this episode, and this is really a very insightful episode and a power pack episode, I would say, because you came from a humble background and you like actually people believed in your potential instead of you, and you capitalize on their confidence level. So that's a really great story of yours. So I'm really thankful for that, and
Thank you, Saurabh, and all the very best to Iceberg and your effort. I think this is just as what the last story that I talked about, the beak and water and the fire. You are trying to do that at your level, and I wish you all the success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.